Hi everyone. Welcome to my latest series of videos called Complex Things Explained Well, in which I will do my best to give you the tools to make good, sound decisions about your pet's health by describing common pet health conditions the same way that I would describe them to a client in the consult room at my own practice. And before we get into it, please remember to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell notification icon so that you get notifications when new videos are published. And if you'd like to help me decide on which health condition to address next, then please join me on Patreon, because my Patreon supporters do get to vote on which videos I make next. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hi everyone, and welcome to what may prove to be my most controversial video yet. Should I give CBD to my pets? To my cat, to my dog? Should I do it? Now, before I get going, I do want to say a special thank you to our video sponsors for today. This video is sponsored by science, the scientific method giving us tools to understand the world around us since mid-16th century. This video is being made in February 2020. Marijuana has been legal for recreational use in Canada for about a year now. And I believe it's been legal in certain states of the US, in California, Colorado, and Washington for about 3 years. So we've are getting some experience with marijuana and CBD and THC and all derivative products of it now. And there's a lot of interest in marijuana products as therapeutic modalities. Particularly CBD. It's a very popular drug target at the moment, and I'll talk a little bit about why in a moment. But before I talk about CBD and your pets, I want to talk about cabinet making. Now, whether you're a carpenter or a doctor, you really need to be confident in the tools you have for the job at hand. So let's say you need to hang some cabinets in your kitchen. You need some pretty sturdy nails because those cabinets are heavy and going to have a lot of silverware and plates in them. So traditionally, you have these tools called hammers. They're really excellent. Clawdia, not right now. Rawr. They're really excellent for putting nails into walls. But of course, these are very, very dangerous tools. I mean, people have died. There's been a significant mortality rate associated with inappropriate hammer use. And even if you use it appropriately, you can really hurt yourself. You can miss the nail and put a hole in your drywall. You could smash your fingers with it. These are very dangerous tools. Undoubtedly effective, though, at putting nails into walls. So let's say you're about to hang up some cabinets and you've got your nails, you got your hammer, you got your tool for the job. And then your friend comes along. Maybe it's somebody you know at the dog park. Maybe it's your best friend from high school. Maybe it's some guy with tattoos at the local shop. And he tells you, hey, I got this amazing tool for putting nails into walls that is like awesome. It works so well and it is so safe. This is a rubber chicken. I know it looks like a flamingo, but this is a red chicken. Red because it goes faster. So let's say somebody comes to you and says, no, you should use this rubber chicken to put nails into walls. And undoubtedly, they got a point, right? Rubber chickens are awesome. Super safe, you know. With a hammer, you miss a swing. You could really hurt your thumb if you just miss that tiny little nail head. These things are dangerous. Rubber chickens, though, man, God, so safe. But before you go ahead and try to hang your cabinets in the kitchen using a rubber chicken, you should really ask yourself two questions. And these are two questions that any craftsman should ask themselves when they're considering a new tool for an old job. And just remember, doctors use medications as tools to modify the physiology of the patient. That's all the drugs are. They are tools to modify physiology. So we're, in this regard, not too different from carpenters. We got our tool set. Sometimes new tools come out, and we have to consider them seriously. And there are two major considerations when you're looking at a new tool. The first one is, does it do the job that you would like it to do? And the second one is it better or superior in any way to already existing tools in your repertoire? And certainly, when it comes to rubber chickens, they are in many ways superior to hammers when it comes to safety. Perhaps, though, not efficacy. For those of you that don't know, CBD is one of the major components of marijuana. It's one of the main active substances in it. And there have been suggestions in the last few years that it may be useful as a drug for pain control, for limiting inflammation, helping with sleep, controlling seizures, really just about improving appetite, really just about anything you could possibly use it for. Somebody has suggested that it needs to be used for it. Now, the question is, who has been making these suggestions? The answer is not doctors or scientists. The thing we need to be aware of is that the entire medicinal marijuana movement was really started as a way of, as a part of a greater marijuana movement as a whole, as a way of legitimizing marijuana use back when it was illegal and persecuted, which, I mean, it still is federally in the United States and many other countries in the world. And the medicinal argument has always been a tool for legitimizing recreational use of marijuana. Let's be honest about that. That's what it is. It's a way of essentially giving people access to this drug that would otherwise be illegal, and that's kind of morally justifiable and can be kind of legally defended in certain circumstances. And no judgment. I think adults should be free to use drugs within limits, and I'm not going to judge anyone for using marijuana or smoking it. But I am going to judge people for suggesting clinical indications for anything without being able to support those suggestions with scientific evidence. I'm a big believer in evidence-based medicine, which means medicine that is based on sound scientific evidence. Because I don't think doctors are special. I don't think that finishing medical school makes you in any way better or fancier than anyone else in society. I don't think that medical training gives you any special insight. All that medical training does is give you a bunch of knowledge and trains you to think in a way that allows you to analyze and integrate that knowledge. And as long as that knowledge is based on sound scientific evidence, we can use it to help people, and in the case of veterinarians, animals, fix problems, help them live a better life. Evidence-based medicine is really just a fancy way of saying medicine based on scientific evidence, which is really the only way medicine should be practiced. Now, there are gray zones where scientific evidence is lacking, and we have to kind of muddle our way through based on best guesses. Certainly, we do this in veterinary medicine a lot more than is done in human medicine these days. But ever since about the late 1890s, evidence-based medicine has been the cornerstone of modern medical practice. I think that as doctors, it is our duty to speak from a position of scientific knowledge, based on our training, and based on sound evidence. The moment we go off of that and start talking about personal experiences or personal impressions, we lose our license as physicians or veterinarians. We're no longer functioning as doctors. We're just functioning as lay people. Our opinion stops being any more valid than the opinion of somebody on the street when we're no longer speaking from scientific evidence. There is absolutely no scientific evidence as of today, February 2020, that CBD is useful for any of these indications in animals. And there's really minimal and very, very equivocal evidence that it is useful for any of these indications in humans. Now, there is like that super obscure seizure disorder in human children that I think 3 people in the world have it, where CBD is really effective at controlling it. Sure. That's about it. Other than that, there really is no sound evidence for any benefit of CBD, particularly in these applications that I mentioned, like pain control, and that's a big one, and seizure control, that's a huge one. Really, there isn't. I was recently in conversation with a human medical resident who's specializing in pain control, and they were telling me that the recent studies that have come out in the last few months have conclusively, really solidly shown that there's no benefit to using CBD for pain control. Now, there may be some benefit from THC, the psychoactive substance in marijuana, for pain management, but that's still very, very tentative findings. It hasn't really been published. And remember, CBD is a juicy target for major drug companies. Why? Because it has really minimal psychoactive effects. It doesn't really get you high. And of course, we have this whole idea in our society that for a drug to be beneficial and safe, it can't possibly be pleasant. And why that is an entirely different topic that I'm not sure I'm qualified to speak on. But there's very much this idea that if a drug is pleasant or fun, it can't possibly be good for you. So everybody's really excited about CBD as a treatment modality and as a drug target because it is just like, it's not psychoactive, it's very palatable to the conservative elements of our society. You know, saying that THC might be beneficial for you is much less attractive to a big corporation that's trying to make a product they can bring to market, they can sell on a large scale, because, I mean, it makes you feel good and is fun. So, God, that cannot possibly be acceptable, right? So, but yeah, there's maybe some early evidence that THC might help with pain. There is evidence coming out that's fairly solid that CBD does not. But here's the thing. I have a ton of clients asking me whether they should be giving CBD to their pets. Lots of people actually giving it to their pets and then looking a bit guilty when they tell me that they do. And so let's pause for a moment to talk about placebo effect. Because right now, I'm sure there's many of you watching this video who are giving your pet CBD and you're convinced that you're seeing benefit from it. And that's a legitimate experience. You are, without a doubt, a considerate pet owner who's doing what you think is best for your pet, maybe even based on some veterinarian's advice. And you know what you see, and you see a benefit. But here's the thing. Placebo effect describes this phenomenon in humans where you give somebody a sugar pill and tells them that it does something beneficial, and as long as they trust you and believe what you say, about 30% of people, about 1 in 3, will actually feel the beneficial effect of this sugar pill that does absolutely nothing. And this is like really reproducible and well demonstrated. As long as the person believes in the effect of what they're taking, they can actually get benefit from it, even though there is no reason for that to be happening. There's no mechanical or mechanistic explanation for it, which is wonderful, power of psychology. And if it helps people be happier and deal with their issues, I'm all for this. It's a fantastic effect to leverage for people's benefit. You know, if I can give somebody a rubber chicken and tell them that it'll make them feel better and it actually makes them feel better, that's awesome. But here's the thing. We see a placebo effect in veterinary medicine as well, but it is an observational placebo effect. There's a paper that was published by the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine a few years ago talking about this, and they really demonstrated clearly that when you give people a sugar pill to give to their dog and tell them it'll help with the dog's pain, the same percentage, 30%, 1 in 3, will honestly observe and report a benefit from this pill that obviously does nothing. And this is really, really reproducible effect, that 30% of people will see benefit in their pet from a medication they receive as long as they believe that that benefit will be there. It's like observer bias. And this makes it really, really hard to track drug effects by owner reporting. And this is something we have to be really, really conscious of when we're looking at a new drug or a new tool to try to make an animal's life better. Because if you give, if I give somebody a sugar pill and tell them to give it to their dog instead of a medication that actually works for pain control, and it happens to not work, then a third of people will still think it works, but 100% of the dogs will still be in pain. And I mean, that's just tragic, because the whole purpose of being a veterinarian, or the whole purpose of people coming to veterinarians with their pets, is to prevent animal suffering. We're the only profession who has a professional mandate to prevent animal suffering. I know many people work in animal welfare, but veterinarians are the only profession for whom this is actually why we exist. And we have to be really careful not to accidentally add to it through irresponsible recommendations. So a lot of people report benefits for CBD, but this is just observational placebo effect. And unfortunately, our pets don't benefit from it. It benefits the people, it makes them feel better, but it doesn't help animals. And it in fact results in animals not receiving treatments they need, not receiving the pain control they deserve. So we talked a bit about the first question. Is it an effective tool to get a job done that we want to get done? And right now, there's absolutely no evidence for this to be, and there's actually evidence that it is not. But let's talk about the second question, safety. Because let's be serious here. Marijuana is a pretty safe drug. There's very minimal negative effects. And CBD certainly is reported to be very, very safe in terms of toxicity studies, at least. So, and what I hear often from clients, particularly ones whose pets are very sick, end-of-life issues, or they're undergoing treatment for cancer, is, well, why not just try it? It might be beneficial. My animal may die soon anyways. We're doing everything we can and it's not working. Why not try this other thing that may help? What's the downside to that? And that is not an unreasonable thing to say. It certainly it makes intuitive sense. But here's the thing. Drugs are tools, and you can definitely misuse tools. And even a tool that doesn't do a lot can still potentially cause harm if it's used in the wrong place or at the wrong time. Well, one of the main ways that drugs are broken down in our body is something called the P450 enzyme pathway in your liver. It is a chain of enzymes that break down a lot of the drugs and chemicals that we take into our bodies. And CBD is broken down through the P450 enzyme chain. And I read an article recently expressing concerns about its use in chemotherapy, for example, because many of the drugs you get when you're being treated for cancer are also broken down by the P450 pathway. When you have a bunch of drugs going through the same enzymatic pathway, it's just like a bunch of people trying to all walk through one hallway. If the hallway isn't wide enough, eventually you'll get a traffic jam. And unfortunately, this could result in a functional overdose of one of the drugs. Just that the dose is given is correct, but more of it ends up hanging out in the body longer because it's just not getting cleared as efficiently. So this is a potential negative side effect of CBD. It's not been demonstrated, but it is a concern anytime you add a drug to a drug regimen where you have very tight therapeutic indices, very tight range of doses that is going to be tolerated and not going to cause harm. Of course, another way that introducing a new drug or a new tool to a toolkit can cause harm is just if it causes you to not use older, reliable tools that do the job well in favor of this new tool, which may not do the job as well. And I think one thing we have to be very careful of, particularly when it comes to pain control, but also with other medical conditions, is not to discard tools that are proven reliable. Maybe they have their problems, but at least they're known problems, in favor of something new and shiny that may actually be worse or may not do anything or may cause problems that you're just not aware of yet, right? Because it often happens that a drug has to be in use for some time before we really realize what some rare side effect or obscure interaction it has. And the last thing to consider is that just because a drug acts a certain way in one species, human, which is the one we study the most, there's no reason to believe it acts the same way in other species. So just because something has a certain effect in humans or is safe in humans doesn't mean it'll do the same thing in other animals. I mean, a great example of this is Tylenol. Fantastic for humans, kills cats. Another example is ibuprofen. Fantastic for humans, kills dogs. It's just, there's species-specific differences that, again, nobody's really studied when it comes to a drug like CBD, so we don't really know. I know that when I was an emergency clinician in Vancouver, we used to routinely see dogs for marijuana intoxication, and let me tell you, these dogs did not look like they were having a good time. They're very dysphoric, very unhappy, irregular heart rhythms. We'd actually hospitalize them for a night on fluids sometimes. Again, I don't know that this was really life-threatening. The reports of any serious life-threatening complications from marijuana intoxication in dogs are shaky at best. We're talking about evidence-based medicine here. There's not a lot of evidence for it. But subjectively, they look terrible. They don't look like they're having fun at all. And so there's just no reason to think that because humans experience some beneficial effects of a drug, that animals will experience the same beneficial effect. So the use of a new drug in animals, even if it is beneficial in humans, ideally should be done after some fairly rigorous scientific testing and verification in the species that it's actually meant to be used in. The beautiful thing about evidence-based medicine and science is that it evolves, and as our understanding of the world around us evolves, our opinions can also evolve. So I'm making this video in February of 2020. I might be making another video in a month, 6 months, a year, saying, yeah, look, there's all these new benefits that have been discovered to this drug. It's fantastic. It can be used for this, and this is the downsides. And it completely could negate everything I'm saying today in this video. But that is okay. That is the way scientific progress works. We base opinions based on evidence, and then we revise those opinions when new evidence comes to light. That is a part of medical training and scientific training, is learning to think about things in that way instead of jumping to conclusions or making observations and trying to extrapolate reality from simple observations. So, now I believe I've given you enough information to decide which tool are you going to use to get a job done. Hammer or rubber chicken? Something that is known to get the job done and has known dangers, or something that we have no reason to believe can get the job done other than perhaps wishful thinking and marketing, and probably has few dangers, but we don't really know what they are. And if you're watching this video and you're fuming mad at me and want to tell me how I'm wrong, and please also go ahead and leave a comment in the comments below. I'll be happy to address your rage. Now, I know this is going to be one of the more controversial topics that I make a video on, so if I'm thinking of doing a live Q&A session 1 or 2 weeks after I publish this, in order to have a little interaction with you guys and some live feedback and have maybe more discussion about the use of CBD in animals. And please remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the animals. It's about giving the animals in our lives the best, most comfortable life possible, and about spending as much quality time with them as possible. Thank you for watching.
Well, I hope you found that to be educational and helpful. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I would really appreciate your support, which you can express by joining me on Patreon, where I have a wonderful community of patrons already, or by getting some Squishthatcat merchandise like this t-shirt. I also have mugs and a bunch of other stuff, so please support me. I look forward to making more videos like this, and until next time, have fun with your pets, and I'll see you again.